History tests.
Hey, you can make yourself go fall lower and lower, bro.
All right. Now, trapezoids are a special thing. They are not part of the parallelogram family. And same side, please mark through that. I forgot to change this. Consecutive angles, because we use the real words. Consecutive angles add up to 180 degrees. So pick a letter.
B.
Another letter.
K.
Another letter.
K. B.
7.
K.
Let's go.
All right.
What?
Trapezoid catba.
Back, yeah.
The cat. Tack B. Batak. Ooh, I like batak better. Trapezoid batak. All right, now, which ones are consecutive angles?
BT.
BT. Angle B and angle T. Take a point. And angle and look at us go. Now, these are special, so we're going to have to talk about those in a second because special things happen to some of these. Now, it is not part of the parallelogram family because it doesn't have all opposite sides parallel all the time. Now, you can have something special called an isosceles trapezoid. In an isosceles trapezoid, the top base and the bottom base are parallel. Now, this is a base, and this is a base. You guys have seen trapezoids before, right?
Right.
Okay. Does anybody remember what these sides are called, BT and CA?
Legs.
Legs. Take a point.
I didn't know that. Two bases and 2 legs.
So your bases are parallel and your legs are congruent in an isosceles trapezoid. And it says that each pair of base angles is congruent. So that means that angle R is congruent to which angle? U.
I was going
And angle S is congruent to? Look at us go. All right, we ready to look at some problems?
Sure.
Let's go crazy. Why? Oh my.
Ow.
Yes. Y'all, I can't hear what she's saying.
I'm confused because you said they were parallel.
Right. Each pair of base angles is congruent. The sides are parallel, but base angles are congruent. So the sides are parallel. So your bases are parallel. But the base angles are congruent. Now the reason the base angles are congruent is because your legs are congruent. So it's the same property as an isosceles trapezoid. If you have an isosceles trapezoid that looks like this, and we call this A, B, C, what do we know about angle A and angle C? They're congruent. Thank you, Coach Hamrick. Take a point, Coach Hamrick.
Yeah.
So, in an isosceles triangle, which you should know this by now because this is what we've been talking about since like September. If you have two sets of congruent sides like this, then your base angles are congruent. Here, we have congruent legs, so our base angles are congruent. Is everybody with me?
Yes.
And your bases, meaning the sides, are what? What symbol is beside the word base on here? Parallel. Thank you. Take a point. When I say symbol, leg isn't a symbol, guys.
I was.
Okay. Is everybody with me?
That's the first thing I saw.
Okay, baby. Now, let's look at example 1. Everybody look with me. If these are parallel, that means it's what kind of trapezoid? What do you think? Okay, so let's put tiki. If angle A is 125, what's angle B going to be?
125.
Now it asks us to find the measure of angle D. And what do our characteristics at the top tell us about consecutive angles? Okay, so we would do angle D plus 125 equals 180. Now, do not solve it. Everybody just take a moment, look at your paper, see what we did, make sure you understand. I don't want anybody to tell me the answer.
No, I have a question.
I know. I just want everybody to look for a minute, and if you have a question, then raise your hand. Yes.
If consecutive angles equal 180, how come we put 125 for B?
Because this is a special one. Remember when we talked about up here, I said you're going to have special cases on these in a minute? Okay? And that special case is when you have an isosceles trapezoid. Alright, so on an isosceles trapezoid, what do we know about base angles? No, base angles. Base angles are congruent. These two are base angles, right? Which means that these two are base angles. And that means that they're congruent. Now we look at our consecutive angles, which is B and D, and they are supplementary. So now, subtract 125 from both sides, and what's the measure of angle D? 55 degrees. Does anybody have a question on how we got 55 degrees? Are we sure? Are y'all discussing the problem? I doubt it too. And we just lied. So that's minus a point. Alright?
I'll give them my point. I took mine off.
Let's look at this problem right here. It says find the measure of angle L. Now, what do we know about K and L? They're consecutive. And what kind of trapezoid is this? Is this just a regular old good old-fashioned trapezoid, or is it's an isosceles? Fantastic. So what would we do with angle K and angle L? We would add them up and then set it equal to 180. Now, please be very specific in how you tell me what to do something, because if you say set it equal to 180, that could be angle K equals 180 and angle L equals 180. We could do all kinds of magic with that. So we add them together and set it equal to 180. So we have angle L plus what? Equals 180. So what's the measure of angle L?
140.
Yes.
So, what about the two sides?
What does that mean?
Like, you see the bottom side?
No, I know. I'm asking you, what does that mean? If both of these are 5, what does that mean for those side lengths? They're congruent, right? So that means this is what type of trapezoid? We said right here that we have two different kinds of trapezoids, right? Our good old-fashioned trapezoid just has two bases, two legs, and it's not part of the parallelogram family, and consecutive angles add up to 180. An isosceles trapezoid says that legs are congruent and bases are parallel. Are the bases parallel? Are the legs congruent? So what kind of trapezoid is this? Yep. And that's how you could also tell me what the measure of angle J is. So what would the measure of angle J be? It would be 40. Now, why would this be 40 degrees?
Because consecutive
Nope.
base angles are congruent.
Because base angles are congruent. So if the legs are congruent, base angles are congruent. So what would the measure of angle M be? 140. Does that help? Okay. Does anybody have any other questions on 1 or 2? You need to speak now. All right. Let's look at mid-segments of a trapezoid. What do you think a mid-segment is? A line through the middle. Now, it runs parallel to each base. So what kind of symbol should we put on our mid-segment? An arrow. Should we put one arrow or two? One, because it is parallel to the top base and the bottom base. It says its measure is the average of the bases. What does the word average mean? You add them together and divide by how many there are, correct? So if I add these together, what am I going to divide by? By 2. So to get my mid-segment, if I called this base 1, what would this one down here be? Base 2. So to get my mid-segment, I would do base 1 plus base 2 and then divide it by what? Look at us go. Equals the mid-segment. Not question mark, because we know what it equals. Alright, are we ready to look at a problem? Are we sure? Alright. Our problem at the bottom says that HJ is 32 and LK is 60. So it gives us both of our bases and it wants us to find the mid-segment. How would we do that? Okay, alright, let's say it. Just everybody breathe for a second. We would take HJ and we would add it to LK and then we would divide it by 2. So HJ plus LK divided by 2. Do we know what HJ is? 32. Does anybody have a question on how I just did that? Because if you do, you need to speak now. Alright, what's 32 plus 60? And what's 92 divided by 2? Awesome. If you got 46, raise your hand. Take a point. You ready to look at number 4? Use the sticky note.
Scripts.
I don't understand why he can't just say strips. But. And also, a script is a prescription. So no, you don't have any point prescriptions because I'm a teacher, not a doctor. Let's look at number 4. This says that HJ is 18 and MN is 28, and we need to find our base. Now, can we use our formula to find that? We can use this same formula to find LK. If we don't know what LK is, what are we going to call it? X. Now, what does MN equal?
28.
All right, so we're going to do 28 equals, remix. What is HJ? 18 plus X divided by 2. Now, this is now a fraction. And fractions are what? No, what mathematical operation are fractions? Division. Take a point. And what's the opposite of division? So what are we going to multiply both sides by to kill that 2?
2.
In your trapezoid. All right, what's 2 times 28?
3 print and then trapezoid.
56.
Minus 18.
And how do we find X? You subtract 18, and what does X equal?
38.
I just multiplied the final answer by 2. And just subtracted by the other one.
So did I.
Well, you set it up like fractions. I just...
So that we can explain it and be able to do it on our own, right?
Is that really trying to buy a dog?
Am I trying to buy a dog?
I know you like dogs. My dogs have dogs.
No, I rescue animals. I don't buy them. Adopt, don't shop.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a dog.
All right, look at kites. Super fast, super fast, super
If I
fast.
leave my dog on your porch, will you rescue it?
Please don't leave your dog on my porch. All right, this says diagonals are what?
Perpendicular.
And what does the word perpendicular mean?
Meet at a line.
All right. And then it says exactly one pair of opposite angles is congruent. So if I told you that this top angle was 30 and this bottom angle was 90, these would have to be what? They would have to be congruent because it says exactly one pair. So let's look at this problem right here. If this is 80 and this is 60, what do these have to be? They have to be congruent. Now, what do we know is the sum?
360.
Look at you go. Why? Take a point. Why is it 360? Because it's still a quadrilateral. So it's still 360. So we're going to call this A and this A. So we have 2A plus 60 plus 80 equals 360. What on? Yeah, because it's a quadrilateral. All quadrilaterals are 360. What's 360 minus 140? So A is 110. Now, tonight, I want you to try number 2 without me. Tomorrow starts our intensive review, so get excited, be prepared. Start looking over your notes. If you circled red or yellow, when should you come see me? Because saying you're confused and then not doing anything about it is not acceptable.